Hello and welcome to What Does the Boss Do, a series where I try to cover what every boss in Darkest Dungeon 1 does and how to counter them. This time I'm going to be talking about the second boss in the ruins, the Prophet. The Prophet is a size 1 unholy boss with only 1 action and 2 free actions per turn. He starts the fight in rank 4 with 3 pews of various HP in the front of him. He has 105 HP, 126 on Blood Moon or Stygian, 5% dodge, no pred, and 0 speed. He has 100% stun resist, no damage over time resist, 20% debuff resist, and an immunity to being moved. Another important defensive advantage is his positioning. Since he always sits in the very back of the enemies, fewer big attacks can actually reach him for big damage, making his effective health much higher than the numbers might suggest. Compared to the averages, he has slightly above average HP, he has about average dodge, below average speed, average stun resist, and most of his other resists are below average. Overall, in my opinion, Prophet has above average defenses. His stats aren't incredible, and his low resists do pull him down a bit, but it's still not enough to put him into the realm of terrible defensive stats because of only having 1 action, making damage over times not take multiple times in a turn, and thus less effective against him than any other bosses with higher resists but more actions. His position is the biggest part that gives him the defensive edge over other bosses, only having limited burst options to actually reach him. While stunning him is technically possible, the 2 free actions I get into a bit make it not as enticing as against someone like Necromancer with only 1 action. Speaking of, what does Prophet actually do with those free actions? The most important part and probably the biggest thing Prophet is always known for are his 2 free actions, Prognostication and Rubble of Ruin. Prognostication always triggers first in turn initiative and always marks 1 hero rank with a chance to mark a second one. This chance increases slightly with difficulty. The second part, Rubble of Ruin, always triggers last and drops a rock onto the targeted ranks. This deals an insane amount of damage, being the second highest potential damage output of any boss next to Flash's insane potential damage output with 4 actions, and technically Enraged Destruction from Swine, but we don't talk about that here. A very important thing to note about this attack is the crit chance of 0. This means that Rubble can only deal so much damage, making the maximum damage output of Prophet a lot lower than what it might seem. Everybody remembers the big orange numbers that randomly flash and suddenly a hero's health bar is just completely nuked. This actually can't happen with Prophet, which makes the fight a lot less explosive as some other fights flash, but that critting for way too much. Unless you play on torches, of course, but then you probably no need to watch this video. His actual actions and attacks serve to complement these huge bursts of damage very well, setting up kills surprisingly reliably for a boss. Almost as if the devs wanted to kill your heroes. Oh, they do. Huh. Iron You can target up to 2 heroes and stun them with a bit of stress, and Fulminate cleaves your entire team and applies a small blight. These 2 attacks allow Prophet to potentially set up kills into the next turn, either stunning your healer and then checking Deathblow resist with either attack, which of course have to deal just enough damage to check Deathblow resist, very cool Red Hook, or applying Blight with Fulminate into a big rubble into death by damage over time because of bad speed rolls. All of this makes Prophet extremely threatening to unprepared teams, as his positioning can weaken the damage output of a lot of teams, forcing them to chop through pews, see what I did there, wasting precious time while the rubble keeps falling, starting to threaten kills with Prophet's multitude of avenues to land them. Alright, so now that we know what Prophet actually does, what can we do about it? Prophet can very easily kill someone if his setup isn't stopped, so we need to focus on stopping all of his setup at once if we want to find a safe strategy to beating him. Luckily, all of his kill setups have 1 move in common, Rubble of Ruin. Denying rubble damage is key to making this fight work. Over the years, 2 strategies have formed around this principle. The first one is Guard, and the second one is debuffs. Guard is probably the more well-known of the 2. The strategy relies on 2 heroes with a Guard, Houndmaster and Man-at-Arms defending whoever Prophet is targeting. This works to both guards, generating a good amount of defensive stats, allowing them to take rubble damage a lot better by either dodging or tagging with prot. With the nature of guards, these defensive stats effectively shift to whatever party member gets targeted, making it very efficient to become viable. It's very important to note that this strategy requires at least 2 guards in a party to play around double targets from rubble, and the necessity of at least some stun resist to avoid dropping the guard at an inopportune time, causing a full damage rubble to hit a non-guard party member. The guards are usually backed up by 1 healer, usually Vestal due to lacking party space for multi-healer setups, but as long as all your bases are covered, the team will do just fine. Defensive trinkets bolstering the respective defensive stats are appreciated since the strat needs at least 1 or 2 turns to actually get to maximum efficiency, due to the defensive buffs from guards needing to stack up. The second and less well-known strategy is debuffs. I will take full credit for making this strat more common over the last few years because fuck you. I found it. It relies on Leper and Occultist using their debuffs with Weakening Curse and Intimidate respectively to lower Prophet's damage and reducing Rubble damage into nothingness. When Prophet is dealing minus 100% damage, Rubble can't actually send anyone to Death's Door, and all kill power is lost. Similarly to Guard, Prophet's stuns can be annoying, either stopping setup or breaking the chain of debuffs. Trinkets with extra debuff chance are also appreciated, allowing debuffs to stick more consistently. Which one of the two strategies you use really doesn't matter. Both are pretty much the same in terms of consistency, so which one you prefer really just depends if you prefer a Man-at-Arms plus Houndmaster combo or a Leper plus Occultist combo. Both strats also allow you to destroy all the pews for some extra money, but it's a bit inconsistent at appearances since neither dodge or prot from the Guarders or the minus damage from the debuffers can fully deny the Rubble damage yet. Alright, so now that we've talked about what Prophet does and how you actually counter him, which heroes would I recommend you bring? This isn't gonna be like 100% accurate. Obviously, if you prefer like a hero for the dungeon, you can just bring them. There are a few I would always recommend over others, but you just do what you want to do. The first hero, A-Bomb, do not bring him. I do not recommend. He's actually one of the heroes where if I see him for like a Prophet team, I'm just thinking, holy shit, what are you cooking? The A-Bomb for Prophet is one of the most vile heroes you can bring. Because he doesn't do anything. Like, he's terrible for the fight. He can actually hit rank 4 in any way, and Rage falls off the longer the fight goes on. Or the longer after you transform. Because the transform debuff, or the transform buff only lasts 3 turns, so after 3 turns, Rage is doing pitiful damage. You only have his base damage. At that point, it's not great. Also after that, he has 0 utility for the fight. You need to destroy 1 pew first. And then you can actually start hitting Prophet, and that's just not worth it. He does have higher blight resist, so you are safer against Fulminate, but I just wouldn't. There's other heroes you can bring much more often. Antiquarian, she's solid. You have healing, you have debuffs, you have dodge, obviously. You can press Protect Me to like force a guard. If someone gets stunned for some reason, then this can help. It's also just like a huge defensive bonus. 8 dodge, 20% prot is pretty good. And you have Fest and Reapers to deal like a decent amount of damage. She's just decent. She's not one of the heroes I would bring on like every team, but you can bring her if you want to. Speaking of one of the heroes I would always bring, Arbalest. Arbalest is amazing for this fight. She's probably the best hero for this fight that doesn't specifically counter him. AKA, she doesn't have like a minus damage debuff, or she doesn't have a guard. But outside of that, she's the best hero you can bring. I would even go as far as to say you should double stack her. Just bring 2 Arbalists in the backline, it's fine. You get great healing, you get great backline damage, so for the dungeon it's not really that big of an issue. And for the fight she's amazing, because suppressing fire 4 stacks of this is minus 80 accuracy. And Prophet is probably not hitting at that point, because of the base dodge at champion. He gets like minus 80, he has like a 20% chance to hit, and everything probably has 20% dodge. So you are basically rolling like minus 5, that minimum 5% hit chance from him, and that's basically the safest you can get. He also can't crit you, because minus crit from this, obviously. Outside of suppressing fire being amazing, Sniper Shot is just good damage if you want to burst him. Yeah, you just press Sniper's Mark, you press Sniper Shot. That's insane damage already. And Battlefield Bandage can help for basically everything. It's just a solid secondary heal. Even a solo heal, you can do this, but you have to be comfortable with it, obviously. If you don't think you can solo heal with Arbalest, don't. There's no reason to. And Rallying Flare, great move, has a lot of utility. You can press this to clear Ion U stuns from Prophet, just to be safe. She's one of the best heroes, maybe even the best hero outside of a few specific other choices for this fight, because she goes on every team. If you have an Arbalest available for a Prophet fight, you bring her. Always. Always. Don't think about it, don't overthink it, she's fantastic. Bounty Hunter. Yeah, where is he? He just deals damage. That's basically the entire thing about him. You just press Caltrops. You don't get too much utility from this because it's just damage basically, and the minus speed obviously, but minus speed doesn't matter too much. So you just press this, you just deal damage. You can shop the pews with Collect Bounty and Mark for Death, and you can mark for Arbalest obviously, if that's what you want. You can bring him. I wouldn't say that he's like amazing or like required for the fight. He's just a solid damage dealer, which a lot of heroes are this. So he's not unique in that case, unlike Arbalest. Crusader, he's basically our like Bounty Hunter, but needs slightly more setup for a bigger return. Holy Lance is fantastic. It's the highest damage you can deal to Prophet when he's sitting in rank 4. The other option is obviously Iron Swan from Hellion, which is the same damage, but it has lower crit. And very important, you get plus 35% damage from this, because Prophet is unholy. The issue that Holy Lance kind of has is that you can't spam it without another hero helping him. Because if you have in the backline, he's gonna move forward, again, and then you can't use Holy Lance anymore. So you need someone else, like another Crusader, dancing with him, so you can permanently spam Holy Lance. The other thing he has is Inspiring Cry or Battle Heal. Just solid moves, they just help you keep your party alive. If someone hits Death's Door, he's a great option to just pull him off because he has very consistent healing from any position. This heals stress. It's just standard Crusader stuff. You just press Holy Lance basically the entire fight, and if you need it, you press Inspiring Cry or Battle Heal. You can bring this guy, he's solid. If you can manage his Holy Lance dancing, that's fine. If you want him in the front line to hit Pews with Smite, also works. Smite deals decent on-hit damage, 10 to 19 is good. But I would always prefer Holy Lance over, to be honest. Flagellant. With him, it's not really about the fight itself. It's more about the dungeon. If you think you can bring Flagellant into Ruins and still have a good team, you can bring this guy for the fight, you will be completely fine. If you don't think you can justify Flagellant in the Ruins, don't do it. Then he's just a bad choice. The thing with a lot of advice I'm giving here for the heroes is really just, okay, if you can bring this guy to the dungeon, yes, you can bring him for the fight, but if you can't bring them for the dungeon, if you don't think you are good enough with this hero for the dungeon, just don't. Don't take a worse dungeon for like a better or like a more optimal, in theory, boss fight. If you go into the boss fight with like everybody at 10 HP, that's terrible. Like I would rather have a suboptimal team for the boss instead of a team that's a lot weaker going into the boss, right? Just pick like one of the two strategies I've already talked about, debuffs or guard, and just fill up the rest with like heroes you're comfortable with. And if you aren't comfortable with like playing Leper, don't do debuffs, just do guard. It's still fine. And Flagellant is great for the fight. You have Reign of Sorrows, you have Reclaim, you have to Redeem, just great healing and good damage against Prophet. Again, if you can manage him for the dungeon, he's fine. He will be good in the boss fight, but if you don't think you can manage him in the dungeon, don't bring him. Bad idea. Grave Robber, she's another one of those heroes that just like hits. Like, you just spam poison darts. That's the entire thing I can talk about with her. You just deal damage with poison darts, you have zero utility, you can technically use Shadow of Fate to like move backwards when she gets targeted, but that just means you have to think like 15 steps ahead. Just don't. Just use debuffs, use guards, it's fine. Her HP is kind of low, so if you do mess up with her and like she gets hit by rubble, she is kind of vulnerable to that, because she can't heal herself, and if you get like blighted or something, she is in trouble, but usually that just doesn't happen. Like, you just press poison darts, and that's the entire plan with her. Hellion is very similar. She sits in rank 1, she spams Iron Swan. That's what makes her good. It's the second highest damage you can put into rank 4 that isn't Holy Lance. And it's good. Yeah, if you can justify bringing her on your team, because with debuff obviously you can't, because Intimidator is rank 1 use only. So you have to play Hellion in rank 2 if you want her, and that means you lose Iron Swan, you lose Bleed Out. That's her two best moves. Don't. Just don't. There's no reason to bring her on debuff teams. On guard teams, she's very good. She's basically the best burst damage option you can get that isn't Arbalest, because Arbalest is just incredible for this fight. Like, she brings everything. Arbalest just brings everything. And Hellion brings good damage. He doesn't have the utility that Arbalest has, but you just get off the bat burst damage. And if you don't have any support and you can't do like Holy Lance dancing in the backline, she's just good damage. she is probably like the least thought required for this fight, because you just press Iron Swan and everybody does their own thing, and yeah, works. She's very unflexible in the team because you need 2 Guarders, and then you need a solo healer, aka you need Vestal or you need Arbalest. She's very inflexible for teams because of that, and that's also the reason why I don't like to bring her, because she just limits your team building options a lot. She does give you the return though. Iron Swan is good, but if you go for like a more difficult, if you just want her for the dungeon, if you really like Hellion for some reason, you just like to play her, fine, do it. Like, just bring a guard team, bring a Vestal in the back, do the thing. It's not as consistent at debuffs, I would say, because you just run the risk of getting stunned sometimes, but it's fine. Like, Iron Swan just gives you enough returns, in my opinion, to like justify bringing her on those teams if you don't like the debuff playstyle. Iron Man, very similar. He isn't great on debuff teams because Duel's Advance does mess up positioning for Leper, so he just hits Pistol Shot, he hits Duel's Advance, you just do your usual stuff. If you want to bring him, he's a fine option. He doesn't have great utility on stuff, obviously. He just hits. Yeah. What else am I supposed to talk about? You just hit. Houndmaster? Where is he? This is your premium Garda. Houndmaster is the Garda you would like to pick because of Guard Dog. Dodge is better at countering stuns than Prod, because with Prod you will always get hit. Or like, you will probably get hit because you don't have 90 dodge. So with Prod you have a higher chance of getting stunned. And with Guard Dog you just don't. You just press this over and over. You get up to like 100 dodge and you just sit there. You hope you don't get hit by the 5% minimum hit chance that every enemy and every hero has. And that's your entire plan. And it's not as consistent as debuffs, obviously, because with debuffs you just hit him and like you get that extra 5% maybe safety, where like even if like he hits you, you just still have the debuffs up, and it's fine. And with Guard Dog, yeah, this has synergy with one of the better heroes, Arbalest. Suppressing Fire helps us a lot. This makes it even more consistent, and he just deals good damage. He presses the guard. That's what he does. Jester, I wouldn't recommend. Jester's one of those heroes I would just never bring for this fight. The reason is that his defensive stats, like his HP, is very low. So if you get hit once by like a bad rubble, he's probably on death's door. And that's just not something you want. Just don't bring him. He's incredibly unsafe. And the return you get for bringing this guy is basically nothing. Like, you get Battle Ballad on one person, because the other two are busy spamming their debuffs or their guards, and Battle Ballad doesn't help with that. You get Distress Healing, which Crusader exists. Crusader has great damage if you set it up, and yeah. And Finale is a solid finisher, but you have to play around solo, then you have to Finale, and because of how fast Jester usually is, you will probably outspeed your other heroes, and if you have like debuff team, you lose Intimidate for a turn, which is very bad, and Finale is just not worth the payoff. Outside of that, Dirk Stab, terrible damage, Always terrible damage, Slice of terrible damage because the Puce can't bleed. That simple. He doesn't do anything, he's sometimes a liability because of his inconsistent defenses, just not worth bringing. Just don't think about it. Leper, he's fantastic. He's one of the two best heroes for us, the other being Occultist, and Arbalest, kind of. Intimidate is fantastic, minus 33% damage. Yeah. What else do you want me to talk about? Intimidate is incredible. This counters Prophet basically by itself. If you have Occultist backing it up, there's no chance of you ever taking any damage. Yeah. And if you get hit by like a Pew and like by like a rubble, he can just like take it because he has so much HP. When you just press Solemnity, you are completely fine. You can even press Chop onto Pews if you have the time. I wouldn't recommend it. Just be safe, just press Intimidate. Boom. That's Leper. Mad Arms, this is the Garda that I personally don't like as much as Houndmaster. Defender, obviously, Guards, gives him Prod. It just lowers Prophet damage by 80%. Yeah, sure. It isn't as consistent as Dodge, because obviously you can still get stunned a lot more often, because he basically has his base Dodge. And if you then get hit by the stun, you just have to roll Stun Resist with the Dodge Guard Houndmaster, you just very often just completely ignore the stuns because you have a 5% chance to get hit by the stun. And then you have to get stunned first, and then you have to get the wrong hero targeted by Rubble, and at that point it's a very low chance. With Mad Arms not so much, because you just have to, you have a higher chance to get hit by the stun, and you maybe get stunned, and then you drop Defender, obviously. The chance is still fairly low, but it is something to consider. Otherwise, he's just solid. You press Defender over and over again. You have Bolster sometimes for that extra dodge. He obviously has great camp skills. Tactics, especially. 10 dodge and everybody's incredible. And yeah, you just press Crush, you press Retribution, completely fine. Musketeer, basically Arbalest. I've already talked about Arbalest. Again, she's incredible. Musketeer is probably one of the best heroes for this fight. Occultist. Where is he? Occultist, Weakening Curse spam. How much more can I say? Nothing really. You just spam Weakening Curse, you have to heal. Sometimes at low rolls, sure, but if you are in big trouble, you can just hope that there's high rolls. But usually you will just be fine if you just spam Weakening Curse in this fight. PD. PD is good. You can Cure Blights. You can press Plague Grenade. Good damage. She's probably the other hero in the backline I would maybe recommend outside of Arbalest. If you ignore Arbalest, I would always recommend bringing a PD, because she's the best backline option in my opinion that isn't Arbalest, or Musketeer obviously. Because she just has utility here. She has a bit of utility from Battlefield Medicine, and she has a bit of, and she deals a decent amount of damage with Plague Grenade. She doesn't have the disabling capabilities of Arbalest, which means it would put Arbalest above her, but she's still solid. Where's Shieldbreaker? There. Shieldbreaker, she's fine. Pierce. Yup. Press Pierce. And you have Serpent's Way sometimes to give yourself blocks if you just maybe drop your guard or something. Sure. The reason why I mention her specifically in terms of guard is that she just does not work on debuff teams. Because on debuff teams you want Leper or Intimidate, and yeah, Pierce moves you forward. Doesn't really work, does it? That's the entire reason. Because at that point you have to do fucking rank 2 and rank 3 dancing with Pierce and Expose. That is not something you see, right? Is that something you play? You don't, right? Please tell me nobody runs this. Surely nobody runs this. Vestal, yeah, she's fine. If you want to just be safe, you just press Divine Comfort, you press Divine Grace. You out here whatever Prophet is doing, you press Judgment to like get some decent damage. It's just Vestal. For specific team builds, obviously the one I already mentioned, for the debuff team, you have Occultist, you have double Arbalest in the back. I'm just going to use 2 Arbalest instead of Arbalest Musketeer because I actually cannot be bothered to say Smokescreen all the time. You basically just want to run this. This is what I consider like the best team for Prophet. This gives you like 100% success rate because you just press Intimidate, you press Weakening Curse, and then you spam Suppressing Fire. You do not press basically any button unless someone gets stunned, then you press Raining Fire. That's the entire strategy. You just spam debuffs. You are dealing like 10 damage each turn, but it's completely fine because Prophet is dealing 0 damage per turn. It's that simple. And if you do any amount of math, holy shit, the calculating things where you count numbers sometimes, if you deal 10 damage each turn to Prophet and he does 0 damage back, you will win. Yeah. That's why this team is safe. Prophet has exactly 0 options to do anything because you have Suppressing Fire cutting his accuracy by 80 on a team that doesn't focus on minus accuracy too much. And then if you do get hit by that 5% minimum chance, you have Weakening Curse and Intimidate up, so he's dealing 0 damage anyways, so who cares? And to get killed with this team against Prophet or to lose anyone is insanely difficult. If this is played right, I don't think you can actually lose anybody. You have to get like a shuffle, and then you have to like turn one like fucking eat Fulminate, and then you get hit with like a double crit for some reason. And if that happens, I am very sorry for you. You just got completely destroyed. There's nothing you can do. And at that point, your PC died. That's probably a higher chance than that happening. So this team is insanely safe. This is basically a team, if you want like a 100% safe fight, bring this team. But the reason why I still consider like other options, and I obviously talked about the other heroes, is just that this team can be a bit difficult to learn, because you need to play Leper very well with Intimidate, and the team isn't exactly like new player friendly, because you are running double Arbalest and Occultist, and that's not something a lot of players are comfortable with, and you have to obviously consider like, okay, Leper, what are you doing? Intimidate, is this really helping in the backline, and you have to play around that kind of. And if you just don't like the team I recommended, you can just pick the other heroes. Outside of, obviously, like Abomination and Jester, I would not recommend those for anybody. But if you just like to bring a team, I would very heavily recommend bringing Leper Occultist and an Arbalest, and like any other rank 3 hero that you can just fit in. And if you just want like a guard team because you have like only a specific amount of heroes, or like you only have these few heroes for this fight, or you just only want to bring these few heroes, obviously you can bring someone like Hellion, incredible damage. You can bring the guard teams. They aren't as safe as the debuff team I mentioned, I would say, but it's essentially, the debuff team is 100% safe, right? And then you have the other teams with like guard, where it's like a good, very well played guard team is like 95% safe. And then if you just move away from that way, like play slightly suboptimally, or you bring like a Highwayman or something that I wouldn't consider bringing like those teams, it will still be fine. You will still have a very high chance to succeed for this fight. But there's always that extra bit of safety. If you want that, you will learn the debuff team, and you play that for basically every Prophet, and you will be fine. But if you just don't have that team available this week, or like you don't have those heroes anymore because they died or something, sure. Like you can just like go for like a 90% safe Prophet fight, and that's still good enough. So all of the advice I just gave is basically just targeted to like players who already know how to do this debuff team, and if you don't, that's fine. If you are just a casual player who doesn't want to like know the ins and outs of the entire game, you can just bring like a guard team. You can just bring Shield Breaker and like whatever you feel comfortable with, in addition to like the specific counters I mentioned before, and it's fine. But if you want to be like very perfect at this game, you should learn the debuff team. And you should bring that every time to Prophet, because that's the safest option available. And yeah, that's basically it. I hope I didn't just dump 90 billion... Jesus Christ, I can't speak. But yeah, basically that's it. I hope I just didn't dump too much info onto whoever's watching. So basically just what I really want you to take away from this is that the best team is a debuff team. It's the safest option available. It's only by like a very small amount, so the average player doesn't need to run this. And if you just want like a solid team, you can just bring a guard or 2 guards, and you bring like 2 heroes that you just like, and it's probably gonna be fun. Unless you bring something like rank 1 Arbalest or some shit, which like, okay, then at that point you are just throwing, and yeah, just use common sense for this game, and you will probably be fine against Prophet. If you bring like the counters. If you have like Leper Calls in your team, the backline, you can just bring whatever. As long as you just have like a solid team for the dungeon, just plan for the dungeon at that point. And if you think you can beat the dungeon with this team, it's probably fine against Prophet as well. And yeah. That was it. I'm probably gonna show a short as it can be, fight against Prophet. I'm not gonna use the debuff team, because watching that team fight Prophet is actually boring. If you want to see that, go on YouTube or some shit, just search up like Prophet fights, and sometimes you will see it. It's not as common for like newer channels to pick up on it, because it's not the best well-known team. And I will use a suboptimal team just to show that it also works and how you could in theory play it. And yeah. See you there. See you at the fight. Alrighty, here I am at the boss. I've decided to bring a team like this. We have Man-at-Arms, Mirror Shield, Ancestor Signet Ring, some accuracy, some defense. You know how it is with this moveset, because yes. Houndmaster, Pistol for accuracy, Ruler's Flag for stun resist, poor dodge. All of this stuff I could have equipped Lick Wounds, but I honestly forgot, so that's unfortunate. We have PD, you know, the usual. And we have Arbalest, also with the usual. We pop Holy Water and we just start attacking. Remember to bring some Holy Water to pop for early on, where you're actually threatened by Rubble. So Fulminate doesn't stick the Blight, which if that shit sticks it can be very annoying. Hope this lands. Nice, and he's debuffed. That's a stun. That's very bad. And that's why we have Arbalest. In case something like this happens. Only he's getting targeted, so I can actually press this, and I don't need to clear the stun. I just remove all his accuracy, minus 40, bro is not hitting. Yeah, that's not hitting, oh sorry. And see, this is why you need more than one guard, because in case something like this happens, Houndmaster, if he was my only guarder, I couldn't guard PD and be safe. So that's why we have Man-at-Arms. So I can guard Arbalest instead, I can press Defender and get prot on her. I think I can just start attacking with Arbalest now, this is completely fine. I have enough dodge and prot now, yeah.
Well struck.
PD is just hitting all the blights. I need to guard here because... yeah. And we are vibing. At this point the fight is basically over, because what is he gonna do? Like, he is hitting either through 70% prot or how much dodge Houndmaster has, so it's just not happening. Yeah, yes, 100, that's unlikely, highly unlikely.
A decisive pummeling.
We just keep up the guard. Man-at-Arms is at 90%, at 80% now. He's not getting stunned. It's not happening. Can he actually get stunned? Yeah, he can. But unlikely. Just keep chucking blights, keep attacking, it's fine. He's not doing anything. That stun is not landing, I have Wilbur's Flag.
Precision and power.
And that's it. That was the fight. And we are done.
A trifling victory, but a victory nonetheless.
So yeah, that was the fight. So yeah, that was basically the entire guide. I think I've covered most of the things I want to cover. And if you think I forgot anything about the guide, feel free to put it into the comment section. If you have any questions about the fight, feel free to put it there as well. If you need like any more advice, you can join the official Discord server. I'm probably gonna put a link to it in the description. There's a lot of good people in there. You can find good advice in there. And yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. And leave a subscribe, leave a like, whatever, if you think this was good. And yeah, have a good day.